Welcome to the Third Degree Masonic Podcast, where we are always on the level. We're your hosts. I'm Brother Samuel.
I'm Brother Gabriel.
And we're just a couple Masons trying to find our place in this fraternity. Craftsmen, today's the day. This is our keynote speaker to end off our question, what does it mean to be a traveling man? And oh boy, is it a doozy.
It really is. We've had a lot of good guests and a lot of good answers and responses to our question, but this is going to be incredible.
This guest thinks in a way that I can't even begin to kind of explain. You're going to kind of get this feeling that it's going to be going in one direction, but it's definitely not going the way you think it's going. It will all round about and make sense by the end, I can assure you. But we would just like to once again humbly thank this guest. He has been with us since the beginning, and he is highly active on the podcast circuit and helping not only our show, but plenty of other shows not only get their footing, but also to help provide them with guests and really interesting topics and critiquing. He always is willing to give me critiques on our episodes.
He's been a wonderful resource to the Masonic multimedia community.
He carries many titles for many different organizations, including the Royal Schofield Society, Ohio Lodge of Research. I have lovingly given him the moniker of the Godfather of podcasts because he's so well known amongst all of us. I'm speaking of the one and only Brother Chad Kopenski. Craftsman, this is going to be one interview you're not going to want to miss, and we will be breaking this up into two pieces because I'm sure it's going to take a pretty solid chunk of time for each episode.
Oh, yeah.
So, without further ado, Craftsman, just to get it out of the way, we would like to say thank you to Genoa Lodge for sponsoring us this year, and
we'll get right into it.
Get right into this part one of the interview. And today, Craftsman, we would like to welcome Brother Chad to the show. Welcome to the show, Brother Chad.
It is an honor and a pleasure to be here. I have been a fan since, I believe, your first show. So it's kind of
wonderful.
It's an honor and pleasure to be here. Plus, you're at, it's funny. You're at Genoa right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're at the lodge. I have been in the front door, in the parking lot, numerous times. Charlie has never let me in. That's all I'm saying. Charlie has never let me in your lodge. So it's nice to see that wall back there. I just know a little bit what it looks like inside.
Yeah, he's he's very selective of who he lets in the front door.
Well, he lets Mark in.
He lets Mark in. Yeah, well,
it's all red. Like all red.
All red.
All red should be everywhere.
Yeah.
So
well, that's his protege. You know, he's
the big cheese now.
He is the big cheese.
All red is keys.
What? Yeah.
I have known both those guys for a number of years, and you could not find two better or more fun individuals. So.
Well, it's funny because you really have been with us from day one, because like day one of the show, I put in on a group chat or on a group page in, I think it was Kansas, maybe. I think it wasn't even Ohio and it wasn't even Wisconsin. And I was like, hey, we're the show from Ohio. And you messaged me and said, hey, I'm from Ohio. We need to talk. I know Allred and I know Charlie Murphy and I know all these guys. And I'm like, oh, that's legit. If someone in Kansas knows Charlie Murphy.
You have to do that because,
Charlie Murphy.
There's all kind of
guys. I know Charlie Murphy on the moon.
And for someone to be able to say okay, I'm not crazy stalker person. I actually am a human being. And, if you want to know that I'm not a crazy stalker person, ask this person, mention my name and see what happens.
Right.
And I'm sure that they rolled their eyes and said, yeah,
they're like, no, he's okay. You can talk to him. He's all right.
So having talked about how much you've known these brothers forever, I guess that goes into what one of our first questions always is. How long have you been a Mason, Brother Chad?
Since January 5th, 2010. So whatever that is, 16 years.
Wow. Okay.
So
I'm going to be honest with you, brother. I was kind of expecting longer with how much you kind of No, because I think I joined in 2012, 2013.
Uh, I've been busy.
Yeah, I
We
just,
we know. We've heard.
I did that. I've been busy and I've been lucky. That's the other. So, um, yeah. I moved down here from Wisconsin, and it was. I've said this on a thousand occasions. It was not a good transition,
no.
and the very long story, but basically, I was looking for a way to kind of learn to love Ohio because I really didn't, and my my mom and dad were kind of big on service and really believed that the way that you learn to love something is by serving it. And so I
Mm.
went looking for a way to kind of get involved and learn to connect with my community. I tried the Odd Fellows, but they never called me back.
Nice.
So I called my local lodge and knocked on the door on 2010, and there you go. So and it's been people keep overuse the word journey, but it really kind of has been. It's been a neat journey. I'll take it that average.
So, well, since you kind of answered a couple of our questions, I'll just kind of ask you, when you first did call your lodge and knock on the door, what do you most remember about first becoming a Mason, or what may have caught you right away in the beginning with Masonry?
There's a couple different questions you're asking there. I want to make sure I'm answering the right one. So are you asking what my first impression was? Are you asking what I was looking for, or why originally I stayed?
The third one, like what made you really think that this is something worth doing, that you were entranced by?
Okay. My background is in theater. I taught theater for many years. Um, and I also the Jesuits got a hold of me, and because I went to Marquette University in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and they were really big about talking us through like Joseph Campbell and sort of what ritual sort of meant. And when I came into Masonry, I was looking for these connections, and I found them. I found people who I um, had known outside. I found a way to kind of use my skills and my talents. I found a way for uh, not to get my questions answered, but I mean, masonry is really kind of a lens through which you can kind of look at the world and kind of try to make sense out of it. And it made sense. Like the the meaning of the degrees as I understood them made sense to me in terms of, and then um as I've aged and as I've discovered myself, masonry has helped provide that lens to keep discovering and to keep reaching some understanding. So what I found was I found community, and I found something that helped me make sense out of sort of the chaos and questions around me at that point in my life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always interesting to me what, like, where people find their niches in this fraternity or
Mhm.
what they connect with. Like Mark and other teachers, they really do like the education aspect. And you yourself, Brother Chad, having a background in theater, you really taking to the kind of like expressing things through degrees, expressing ideas of like symbolism and teaching. That's sometimes kind of the purpose of theater, is to use like expressive ways of conveying a message to the audience or to the person taking in the media.
You're going to get me off on so many tangents.
That's okay.
The no the There are a number of books I think every Mason should read, and especially somebody who considers themselves a ritualist. There's one called Tours of Poor Theater, um, by Peter Brook. Am I getting that? Yeah. Um, And he talks about different types of theater, and one of which he talks about is called the Holy Theater. Um, sorry, it's not Towards a Poor Theater. Not Empty Space by Peter Brook. Um, anyway, Empty Space by Peter Brook. And with the Holy Theater, what he talks about is this. Talks about theater as ritual. They're two different things, but this idea of um, as human beings, there's certain things that we know, and there's certain things that are just kind of ineffable. And because we have developed language and we understand the world through language, like if we can name it, we can understand it. But there are certain things that words are just too, they're not enough. The word love, like there's so many different versions and flavors of that, yeah, those four letters, it doesn't cover it. But theater, being a different way of communicating, allows us to kind of speak with a different type of language, allows us to understand and connect to things differently than just the limitations of words. Does that make sense?
Yeah, actually, it
It
does.
does. Especially when you kind of think about how the underlying purpose of a lot of things we do here is understanding symbols and like digging deeper, that not everything is just its surface meaning, that symbols we have, tools we have are expressed, their deeper meaning are expressed through ritual, are expressed through education, expressed through teaching and learning and application, which I think is just shows the level that this fraternity goes to.
Well, and it's always interesting to me that, guys talk about being, they come and they see a fellow craft degree, they see an entered apprentice degree, they see a master mason degree. Every time they see it, or every time they see the lectures for those things, they learn something new.
Mm-hmm.
They feel like they're kind of getting that aha moment somewhere else in that degree or in that lecture. And
What do you think that is?
I think we all go through seasons in our lives, and there's parts that will resonate with you more or less depending on where you are. Your brain can only hold so much, so it throws out the things that's not important to it, and it keeps the things that are important to it at the time for, survival or, higher thinking or whatever you want to call it. But for me, I just remember, so in, oh God, it would have been 2014, 2015, when my dad was sick with cancer. I remember sitting there with my mentor, Chris Gorsuch, as we were doing a Master Mason lecture, and they were talking about all the symbols of death and the end and all this, these things that, as Masons, we know it's supposed to be with the allegory of time and all these, times of our lives. But those symbols hit me differently because I had not quite yet accepted the fact that how sick my dad was and what I was going to have to deal with. And it was almost it had to have been 3 months beforehand, before he had passed away and got really sick. And I just remember sitting there, and it was almost like those symbols themselves were hitting me specifically. Like I'm sitting there, luckily we're in the dark. I'm sitting in the back and I'm just crying. And Chris looks at me and is like rubbing my back. He's like, "Do you need to go?" And I'm like, No, I think I need to hear this right now.
That's incredible. I believe it was Albert Pike who said that everything about the fraternity is actually meant to be taken on an individual level, that everyone has to live on the journey of Freemasonry for themselves. And I think it kind of goes into your point there of that those symbols, while they do have their ritualistic and educational meaning, you had them for yourself in a certain way that you needed at a certain time.
Well, and here's the thing that we sort of, I think, at times blow by, is the fact that, sorry, this is actually kind of thing I was going to talk about the second part, but the idea that every Mason really has to come to understand and interpret Freemasonry in their own life. I mean, you're presented with this. And if we're all just trying to make sense out of the way the world works and our place in it, then that is kind of an individual journey. But it's supported by others who are on the same journey, just at different points. But you're right that on that journey, different things mean different things to you at different times. Do you guys know Keith Manbeck? Do you know who he is?
I can't say I'm familiar.
He was Grand Tyler a couple years ago. He's one of our RSS guys.
Oh, that's why I know the name from the RSS roster.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Okay. So here is, I've told this story before, but if you ever get a chance, go on Grandview and look at the videos from the old Masonic road shows.
Mm-hmm.
And on there, Keith does his masterpiece presentation, which is on the sprig of acacia. So he is a scientist, or was a scientist, and so he was looking at it. He was looking at the sprig of acacia from a scientific standpoint and a historical standpoint, right? Like, what is this plant? What does it do? Then historically, how did it come to be our symbol? What does it mean? Yada, yada, yada. But the last part of his, this is his masterpiece for RSS. He talked about that his daughter had passed after a bout with cancer, and she was really young. And in grieving his daughter, he'd kind of sort of pulled back. He'd always been kind of the guy who'd done the lectures in his lodge. And so they called him one night and asked if he'd do the Master Mason lecture, and he went there. And as he is doing the lecture and he gets to the point about the acacia, he said it was all of a sudden like a curtain parted. And all of a sudden, I'm not even going to try to use his words, because I'd go find his words because they're much more beautiful. Basically, all of a sudden, that symbol revealed itself to him in a way it hadn't before. And all of a sudden, it didn't, get him over his daughter by no means, but it helped him come to a level of peace, that there are some connections that transcend things like time, distance, and death. And that no, she's not here, but, and it's kind of nice. For his lodge, he did this presentation, and he actually, got some acacia from the Holy Land, and it's in his lodge right now. And so when he does the lecture, he can actually gesture to this, actual acacia from the Holy Land. And
oh, that's
really cool.
Nice touch.
So he had a mentor for his masterpiece, and he gave me also a piece of acacia.
Oh, wow.
Unfortunately, it's right there.
Yeah, right.
So he
it's in the...
Yeah, look at that.
Right there on my wall is...
Look at that.
That's really cool.
It was really nice.
Maybe we'll if you could send us a picture of that, we'll put it on our social media when the episode comes out.
Yeah, that's really neat.
Yeah, that's okay. I tend to do that. Part of me is also, I don't know, as soon as you said that, I just had this twinge of
it's kind of sacred.
Yeah. Maybe it is much more
sacred
of a personal.
Or at least I would want to talk to Keith before it. And it's nothing against you guys. As soon as you said that, I first thought was, yeah, sounds great. And then I'm like, oh, wait.
It's a private matter.
What am I? I'm feeling something. And I went, yeah.
That's all right. We'll figure it out. But I did want to ask you, we have talked about, we kind of brought it up a little bit, and I know we talk about it a lot in our show, is the Royal Schofield Society. When I think of you, Brother Chad, we just got done, cracking jokes about Charlie Murphy and Mark Allred. I also throw you into that list of guys for me for the fraternity, at least here in Ohio, as an education man, as a teacher in Masonry. And I know you're really active with the Royal Schofield Society as well as with the Ohio Lodge of Research. What is it that...
Yeah. So what's your question?
My question is what draws you towards the education side of Freemasonry? I mean, you are very active in that stuff. I mean, so much as you go to all of the conferences and all of that, that's a labor of love. That's not a
Here's the
labor
funny
of
thing is, it is so nice of you to say those things. It really is. I'm not nearly as I'm involved differently than I used to be. I mean, there were plenty of times that I was gone many days a week, or and now I'm I'm active, but it's a different type of active. But I thank you for that. The question you had was education. So, um, if I remember right, let's see. You are one of you is in healthcare,
Yes, that would be Sam.
Yep.
right? And you're in government work, right? Is that I can learn things. I used to be an academic advisor in a school of nursing, and I would work with undergraduate nurses. And people would come and say, "Oh, I want to be a nurse," and I'm like, "Okay, there are so many paths to being a nurse, but also understand that your passion for being a nurse has to be greater than the obstacle in front of you, because there's always going to be an obstacle in front of you, and there's going to be days that just sucks. It has to be not just what you do, it has to be who you are." And part of that is like, scaring people into, but there's a certain amount of truth to this. You ask why I'm drawn to education. This is going to sound really arrogant, and for that I apologize. It's because I'm an educator. Like, I don't have very many marketable skills, but the skills that I have are that I can take something really complex, and if I can articulate it and understand it, then I can explain it to others, and I can help them understand it. And so, whether or not I'm in a classroom, being an educator is what I do, helping people make connections, helping people, you know, understand, or help guiding them on, this world, kind of this journey to figure out the way the world works. So what drew me to the education, honestly, was I like connections. And when people would talk about our ritual, I'm like, have you read Joseph Campbell? Or have you read Superman for All Seasons? Have you read, um, whatever book? As people are talking about different symbols or what different things mean, just seeing like, oh, there's so many different ways that we're talking about the same thing. And helping people sort of understand, again, like how it all connects, how it all fits together, how, it's all education. It's all getting people from, one place to the next. So that makes
Actually,
sense.
That's an apt reason for a person inclined towards education to be interested in the educating side of Masonry.
well, and for me, I've kind of drawn myself towards that in a self-study way. I've always considered myself what I quote unquote call a practical Mason. I understand things to a point, but there's some people that really like to jump off of the ledge and go deep down the rabbit hole, and that's not me. I prefer to just
You like to use your working tools.
I do, but I also, if somebody explains something to me in a simple way like that, it's a million times better for me to understand it that way than it is to try and go down this rabbit hole where I have to understand all these other things. I mean, I've had
Remember what we said.
I
Every person has to come to understand Masonry, has to understand it, you know, inculcate it and express it in their own lives. And so one of you was a martial artist. Was it you? Okay.
It was Sam.
Okay. Two pillars that are in every single lodge. At one point I think I talked about this. I was reading Ed Parker's Infinite Insights into Kenpo Karate. I did Kenpo for many years, and he's talking about the tiger and the dragon.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh, hold on. You know, here's this duality, and that he talks about there between like there was between wisdom and power and the balance that there needs to be there. And then, I started looking at the columns in our lodge. And where I'm kind of with you is that if you look at people who are quote unquote esoteric Masons, a lot of them will sit there and tell you that, look, see, there's this connection between Ed Parker and the columns, and see, it's all connected, and they'll try to talk about it there being a causal link, and you're like, no, there's only just so many ways to talk about any human being, or like there's 1,000 different ways to talk about the same thing. Now, that's me going, that doesn't work for me.
Right.
It works for them. Like if they want to sit there and say that, tarot and Kabbalah and, the Betty Crocker's, cookbook are all Masonic in nature and God bless them, throw in Fanny Farmer and her cookie recipes. And that's an allegory for the chapter degrees. God bless them. It doesn't work for me.
Right.
It works for them. So
yeah, I don't yuck anyone's yum, but also at a certain point, I'm
Hey,
good.
everyone has to take their Masonic journey individually.
As long as we all understand that the green bean recipe is sacred, no one shall share it.
So,
all of us are trying to figure out the way the world works and our place in it. And, that's not a journey that we all kind of need to go on and we all need to crush. You had Bill on. I'm sure Bill talked about stuff like this.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
oh yeah. So, I think we've established quite a few things about what you like about the fraternity, where you see your place in the fraternity. But I have a couple questions I like to ask guests when they come on the podcast, and they're a little bit thought provoking sometimes, but I really like to hear all the answers to them. My first one for you, Brother Chad, is if you could change one thing about our fraternity, and I'm not talking about like necessarily our dogma or our ritual, what would it be? Would it be ways we communicate, times of day we hold business, something that you would change about the fraternity? I see the wheels spinning. I always like this question because the answers are always so interesting. Because you can take this question so many different ways. Because it's not meant to be a negative question either. It's not meant like that.
I really
enjoy. The reason why I'm hedging is because
sorry.
The reason why I'm hedging is because there's a couple ways to answer this question, and I think part of this I want to give some background to, but whenever I kind of talk about some of the things I've done in Masonry, I always feel like I'm bragging in it, or that I'm saying how, and I'm really am not. So it's like I feel like I'm one of those guys who drops names 100,000 times, and I don't mean to be that guy, but I think if I could change one thing about Masonry, it would be this, I think. Yeah. I want every single worshipful master and every single senior warden to stand outside their lodge before a meeting starts. And I want them, as the guys come into the lodge, I want them to shake their hands, say hi, welcome them by name, talk to them. And then when, it's 7:30, those two guys close the lodge, they walk up to their seats, they wrap the gavel, and they start things. And I've talked about this in other places, but here's why I want that to happen. So many men go weeks, if not months or years, before anybody actually touches them. But also, regardless of that, think about in your day, how much time anybody ever takes for just you, where they're focused on just you. So imagine you're the worshipful master, and imagine this: you walk into your lodge. Who's your master right now? It's not Charlie, but you finally got rid of him.
It's Mark.
Your master
It's
is
Mark
Mark
again.
Oh God, what, really? You're like,
Yeah. Yep.
We're
so
gluttons
there's
for
Mark
punishment.
Allred, right?
Yeah.
There's Allred, and as you walk into your lodge, he's like, "Hey, Gabe, good to see you. Glad you're here." Right? Or, "Oh man, uh, good to see you." And as you're walking into lodge, you can say, "Oh yeah, hey, listen, I want to talk about the uh ice cream social tonight, okay?" Cool. Or, "Oh man, I don't know. I know I was supposed to give you information about this candidate, but I forgot that it's in my car. I'm going to run home." Like, just so much lodge management, so much of setting of a tone, so much of like, "Oh, hey, you're a stranger here. Good to see you. You know what? Why don't you go sit over there by Charlie Murphy, and he'll walk you." When Jason Laramie came to your lodge, right? Someone to sit there and go, "Hey, why don't you go over and sit there by?" He already knew Charlie. Well, it was there by Allred, and to understand that your lodge is a family. Your lodge is a family event. And as worshipful master, you set the tone. And if you and your senior warden, if you make that connection with your brethren, a community, if you make that, you're walking into lodge like that moment of intention, just a few seconds with each brother, from a lodge management standpoint, from a creating community standpoint, from just a rethinking of how your lodge is supposed to function standpoint. If I could get every master and senior warden to do that, I think you'd be amazed at what you would see at the individual lodge level.
I love
That's
that.
really cool.
I think that's great.
I had other ones too if you wanted them, but like,
Hey,
so I mean, I had a, as soon as you asked, I had a list of like 17 different things.
he went, "This
But
is the one I like today."
I like that because it really is.
I
It
wanted
really
you.
is like important from just a lodge communication standpoint of the whole idea of the highest spoke and the lowest spoke of these are the brothers chosen with authority for the Masonic year. They're not they no longer forego their reasoning to intermingle with the brothers and be just another brother. They're just vested with the authority for a time period. It doesn't it and I love that because not only do I think it humbles the worshipful master and the senior warden in that respect, but it also makes the lodge feel more connected, makes the lodge feel
It's
more
also not about
more
humbling. It's about servant leadership.
yes, in
It's
that respect, not humbling, like forcing them down, but a willingness to use the position of your authority also for the service of your lodge.
and recognizing that the power and authority you have isn't just about calling for a special meeting. It's also setting the tone and
Mhm.
setting the priorities. And if you and the senior board stand right there, right outside the door, right, you're setting a tone, you're setting priorities, you're setting expectations. Just to say, "So glad you're here. You know, thanks for coming. Oh, you're new. You know what? Do me a favor. Go sit by this person so that someone's taking care of you. I don't know who you are. Secretary's right up. I mean, so instead of walking in and talking to the secretary and, you know, whatever, this is my time for the brethren to welcome them in. And now, okay, now it's time to start this. They close the doors.
Well, and
Yes, one of the 17 things, I wanted something practical. So,
no, but that's so for me. That's such a even in a sense of like what you said about making leadership with working for the lodge. just think about how awesome it would, you walk in the door and your worshipful master, "Hey Sam, nice to see you today. I'm so happy you're here. I'm glad to see you. Thanks for coming." How many of these guys stop coming to lodge because they don't feel that connection anymore? They don't have that, it just feels like, oh, I show up, I sit next to the one or two guys that I know. We have the meeting, it's all said and done, whereas instead it feels like this, almost like a personal invitation, a personal welcome from, leadership. Thank you for coming. We appreciate you coming. Keep coming.
And I remember when I joined my lodge, God bless the guys, they're pretty old school, and there were still the people there who still kind of believed that they wouldn't talk to you until you'd been a Master Mason for 5 years.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know that it was ever said, but I really felt like I'm a fellow craft. I'm not allowed to talk.
Right.
Right. I had an experience once where I visited 2 lodges on back-to-back nights. And one of them I went in and was a newly minted DEO. And I walk in and the lodge all of a sudden sort of like drew back into like 3 factions, and the 3 factions weren't going to talk to each other. And because I had they didn't know who the hell I was, they weren't going to talk to me. And then when I went into lodge, nobody sat next to me. Nobody would talk to me, but there was all kinds of like weird actions. And like, okay, this is just odd.
Right.
Next night, I went to a lodge and same district, just same county, and walked in, and some guy, I'm not going to give his name, although he's was like, "What the hell are you doing here? Great to see you! Oh my God!" And I walked in and I sat on the other side of the room because that's kind of like, and he's like, "Get over here," and like went over, grabbed me, pulled me over, sat next to him the entire time.
Right.
I didn't hear the meeting because he was talking to me the entire time. And then he was talking over me, like, and like, okay, so what that said to me is that, and again, like, you set a tone. When I was master of my lodge, I got my officers together and I said, "Guys, this is of the 90,000 things I want to do this year, I want to change this idea. I want our new lodge tradition to be that nobody sits alone. And not that there's someone has to sit right next to them, but I want somebody to sit within like speaking distance of everybody in lodge. We sit there and a guy takes a obligation, and he says, "I'm joining this fraternity that, someone's going to always have my back forever and never and never." And then we go to fellow craft to do some business and we send that EA out in the room by himself. No, like somebody go sit with him. If there's somebody new in lodge and you don't know who the hell they are, go sit next to them and say hi. If there's someone like, there should be somebody within 1 or 2 chairs of everybody in our lodge. And the guys took that on as a point of pride. And
Good for them.
I didn't, sorry, go ahead.
Good for them for
them.
doing that.
Yeah.
And doing what you wanted as master.
Because that
it's nothing new or revolutionary. And I also, again, I don't have necessarily that good of idea, but because they'd also been there of like, you walk into a lodge and like, "Hi, good," and nobody talks to you. Sorry. Any other questions? I'm sorry. I can talk forever.
You're okay.
No, I love the responses so far. They've been great. And so now, even though we've heard a lot of information of you, and I think we all have a good idea of who you are as a Mason and what it means to you, I still just have to ask the question, Brother Chad. What does being a Mason mean to you?
Again, you're
I'm asking a very loaded question here, I know.
no, it's just that there's
so many different ways you could answer
question
it
to answer
too.
because the truth is it's meant different things to me at different times.
Hmm.
I can tell you what it means to me now, which is that I know that there are, I'm going to go back up a second. What it means to me now is I keep going back to this idea of meaningful connections. I mean, that's why guys join. It's why they stay. And when those connections, erode, that's why they fade away. And in a world where it is so easy to feel disconnected, Masonry has given me a means to feel incredibly connected to my family, to my community, to brethren around the country, around the world. There are certain connections that transcend things like time, distance, and death. There was a fairly well-known Mason named Chad Simpson, who was a very good friend of mine. And when he passed, very unexpectedly, I didn't cry for a very long time because in a weird sort of way, I didn't feel his loss because I could still hear his voice in my head. I could still, ask anybody who has lost a parent early, and they'll tell you, I still feel like I have conversations with my dad. He's just, he's just not necessarily in the room with me, there are people who've been brought into my life. There are places I've been able to go. There have been things that I've been able to do. There are connections I've been able to make and a level of understanding to my world that would never have come about unless I had told the Oddfellows to go blow and had asked, I had knocked on a door. So what Freemasonry means to me is it means it is one way that I can stay connected. I can use my talents to, serve people around me. And it's a way for me to understand my world, my place in it, and celebrate those connections that transcend things like time, distance, and death. That makes sense?
It does.
Yeah.
I think that was a beautiful and eloquent answer, and I really hope that the rest of the craftsmen appreciate it.
Every once in a while, I can put a noun and a verb together and not have them explode. So,
well, Brother Chad, we really appreciate that. Craftsmen, I think we're going to take a short break here, and then we'll be right back with the rest of our great interview going on so far. So stay tuned.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast do not reflect those of the Grand Lodge of Ohio, its officers, or any of its jurisdictions. They only reflect those of the hosts or guests.